so I didn't even realise that the COD World War II beta had even been released for PC, let alone knew that it was actually available to download for free. I've heard a lot of good things from Sledgehammer about this game, saying that they are heavily focusing on the PC port, and so I was naturally very excited and wanted to see how it held up. And, let me just say, this was one of the most random and unreliable experiences in terms of PC optimization I've experienced in a while. So hello, I'm JONN-ULT, and welcome to PCPRESSIONS, where we take a look at some PC games and see how well they perform and hold up for the PC gaming master race. And today I'm taking a look at the Call of Duty World War II PC beta. Let me start out with the menus. The game contains a large amount of graphical customization, with a fair few amounts of options. There is an option to increase FOV up to 90, and the ability to set a max FPS all the way up to 250. This is a huge improvement over the 91 FPS cap we have had in so many COD games, even recently with the likes of Infinite Warfare, and no more having to use external programs and risk getting banned just to get a usable FOV. I would have preferred it if they just allowed players to uncap the FPS entirely, instead of just the 250, as I'm imagining in many years' time when PC gamers have like 240Hz monitors and GTX 1680s or whatever, 250 will feel like nothing, and so having it uncapped would have just meant the game is more future-proof, but 250 is still fine. The 90 FOV was perfect for me, and I probably wouldn't even go higher even if I had the choice. But I know some players may prefer more, and so increasing it to 100 or 110 could be something that developers could do just to ensure that they please everybody. Everything was labelled correctly, and nicely detailed just to make it reasonably clear to understand what all the options did exactly. The audio menu allows the user to adjust overall audio levels with a simple slider, as well as the ability to toggle things like music, announcer, and battle chatter. I would have liked separate sliders for these options as well, as you might not want to completely turn off announcer, for example, just turn the volume down so you can hear the game easier. Next, the controls menu allows you to, rather weirdly, change both the horizontal and vertical sensitivity for both controller and mouse. Usually games don't allow you to do this for mouse as well, because the vast amount of players will more than likely want to keep the horizontal and vertical sensitivities the same anyway. But hey, more customization is always better, and it's there if you want to use it. What is incredibly frustrating though, is that these options are only simple sliders. The ability to directly type in what value you want would make it a lot easier to convert and transfer sensitivities to and from other games or between PCs. I cannot stress how annoying this is, as with pretty much every game with a sensitivity system like this, I find myself twiddling around for ages trying to find the perfect value, when I should just be able to directly type it in. There is a config file you can edit, which is located in the game's installation directory inside a folder called Players2 and is called settings_c. Apparently you have to open this with a hex editor, and you can use a website like mouse-sensitivity.com to convert your sensitivity to this format. However, for the brief amount of time the beta was on for, I just ended up doing a couple 360s in order to get a rough value, but definitely an in-game number that can be directly edited would be a nice addition for the full release. Nonetheless, on a more positive note, there is the ability to adjust both ADS and scope sensitivity, which is super nice to see. The game currently supports both hold to aim and toggle aim, but for whatever reason, there is only the ability to use toggle sprint instead of hold to sprint. This wasn't a huge issue for me, as I often use both without much afterthought, but I know for others this could be a huge deal breaker, and something that definitely needs to be addressed in the full release. You can remap pretty much every key, including both toggle and hold crouch, as well as the aforementioned toggle and hold to aim. No hold to sprint though again, something that definitely needs to be added. The gamepad menu is equally detailed, with most of the expected settings, including sensitivity and stick layout. You can change the in-game player's voice levels, something that would have been useful for me to have discovered earlier.
You are Untermensch, all of you.
As well as an amazing option to mute all, which means the days of me having to go through and mute everybody in a lobby is over, and instead replaced by one incredibly convenient toggle option. What about the game's graphics? Well, I have to say I'm actually rather impressed. Now, it has nothing on Crysis or even Battlefield 1 for that matter, but it definitely looks visually pleasing. The textures seemed of a somewhat high quality, and when on ultra settings, I constantly found myself inspecting things like walls and snow just to admire their visual detailedness. This greatly beats Black Ops 2's graphics, my main COD game I've been playing up until now. All in all though, the graphics were definitely an upgrade from previous years, even if it wasn't a hugely significant one. So, everything seems fine, right? Most of the required options are here, with detailed graphical menus and customization, as well as somewhat beautiful graphics. But wait, now I want to get into this game's performance. This is the most random, weird, overly shitty part about the game's optimization on PC. When I originally booted up the game, I immediately noticed that my frame rate was lower than I'd expected. On mostly ultra settings, with a few things on high, I was getting a constant locked 50 to 60 frames per second, testing with a GTX 1060 6GB. Okay, so I proceeded to turn things down a bit. However, to my surprise, the frame rate didn't improve one bit. I turned everything down as low as it would go, and even turned the resolution down to 800 by 600 at one point, and was greeted with a locked 50 to 60, maybe sometimes 70 FPS. Something was definitely wrong, and when I checked my hardware monitoring program, it displayed to me that my GPU was only using around 50 to 60% of its power, even on ultra, and 20 to 30% on low, with temperatures similar to that of what I would get when playing Minecraft. I tried absolutely everything, changing all settings, even FOV and refresh rate to see if it would make any difference, but nothing worked. Now I'm not one to give up, so I tried installing 3 different Nvidia drivers, changing everything I could think of with Steam and Windows settings, even entirely reinstalling Windows, and the issue still persisted. I was done. Beaten. Then, on day 3 of my time playing the beta, I tried setting the affinity of my game via Task Manager to only 4 of my 8 CPU threads, and then back to the full 8 again. This, for whatever reason, seemed to sort of fix the issue. Now I was getting around 90 to 100 FPS on Ultra, much more in line with where it should be. However, there was some major stuttering issues, and constant frame drops. In the end, I just ended up changing all the settings to low, with the exception of anti-aliasing, which I left on because I hate jaggies. And that not only gave me a very high FPS of around 140 to 180 all the time, but also got rid of the many large stutters I was experiencing. Despite a fairly high frame rate, the game still didn't feel entirely smooth, and it felt as if there was a constant micro stutter that was jittering me around a bit. In addition, the mouse movement seems slightly tied to the frame rate, which meant, because this game varies in frame rate a lot, I'm saying it could be 200 one minute, 100 the next, you'll probably experience inconsistencies in mouse movement, which can throw off your aim a bit. If you're only aiming for 1080p 60 FPS, and you're not an accustomed first-person shooter PC gamer, then this will most likely be fine for you. But for the many people who it's not fine for, well, then we have some problems, don't we? This is just so frustrating because this game was actually a blast to play. I could easily find myself calling this my favourite Call of Duty game if it wasn't for the severe optimization issues mentioned before. I really like the new division system, and if the game can run as well as it claims to be able to in the menus and settings, it sets itself up to be one of the best COD PC ports that we've had so far. But it's just the huge amount of issues that myself and others have been having that seriously makes me doubt whether I'll be picking this game up. I've had friends who can run the game fine, with none of the issues I've had, and then I know others who've had the game crash outright multiple times on them continuously. And I know this is a common theme, as it also seems like so many people are having a variety of issues across the forums and websites I've read. If Sledgehammer can prove to me that the issues are completely or mostly ironed out at release, then I will definitely consider picking this game up. I think it would be a positive addition to my Steam library, and something that I could genuinely have tons of fun in. I'm not asking it to be flawless. COD's always had its issues on PC, and I don't think they would just go away with this release. But Sledgehammer needs to do something about addressing many of the issues players have been having during this beta. Anyway, that is what a beta is for, isn't it?
No! God, please, no! No!
Hello, how you doing? I'd like to thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed or found it informative, then consider hitting the like button and subscribing for future content I post. Thanks again, and I hope to see you in the future. Goodbye.